call me Vish. It's a pleasure, a privilege really to be out here for the first in-person event we've done together. So again, appreciate everyone being here. I am the senior manager for this vehicle. Very, very happy and very excited to show it to you today, particularly because for many of us, it's been a real passion project. This is very much a US-based vehicle. It is designed for this market, and for several of us, it's been 5 to 6 years in the making. So really excited to show this vehicle to you today. So with that, let's talk about where Pathfinder comes from, right? Generally, it is sort of the granddaddy of the segment. You know, if you think about some of the vehicles that are in the segment today, Pathfinder harkens back 5 generations, one of the oldest, if not the oldest vehicle in this segment. And even going further back, leans on a lot of Nissan's off-road heritage. So there's a lot of experience on which we're drawing upon, and many of you, yesterday night we talked about stories of some of you that have owned previous generation Pathfinders and had great experiences with it. So we're bringing a lot of experience to the table. With that, we'll look at where our customer is going. Well, when we think about where this customer has been, they've been someone that has enjoyed life, outdoors, rugged, adventurous, but now they have a family and they want to keep that adventure going, but account for the fact that there's a lot more versatility and flexibility needed. So those were the two things that we were trying to balance. When we were looking at the overall vehicle ethos, the need was, we've got to have a 3-row vehicle. The want is, how can we be truck-like? How can we keep a rugged image and rugged capability with it, but still meet that family need? And so that led us to these 3 pillars. So if there's anything you take away from this event, is that we focused on these 3 things. The idea that the vehicle should be ruggedly capable, the idea that it should have this versatility or flexibility on the inside, and that there's a connected experience that brings us into the digital age with the vehicle. So with that, let's talk about that first pillar. We leaned on our heritage there, and we don't take that lightly. We look back at our first generation vehicle, and there are a couple of nice key details that we sort of inspired us to carry over to this vehicle. Particularly for me, my favorite is that kinked diagonal C-pillar there. It's really bold and it's kind of nice, and especially in the two-tone cars, it really shows off a different look on the vehicle, especially versus our outgoing car. Now, what is unique as well is in the industry, all of you know the trend is typically to go longer, wider, lower. In this car, we actually bucked that trend. We went a little shorter with the car, a little bit taller, and we are a bit wider. And there's a good reason for that. Not only are we trying to maximize that interior space, which we can do the easy way out, right, which is to make the vehicle bigger, but we also want to keep the rugged image and the maneuverability. So despite doing this, as you'll find out later on, we were able to actually add 10 cubic feet to the interior space, which is a real credit and due to the engineers there. Now, when it comes to the powertrain, we are using our VQ, or a 3.5 liter V6 engine, what we call internally the VQ engine. We've been using it for a while, and in this latest iteration, it's got direct injection and makes about 284 horsepower. What is all new is the transmission. We have now made this to a 9-speed transmission, and that's allowed us to do a couple of different things. When we looked back in our research phase for this vehicle, we saw 2 trends coming in. One was, we saw this desire by our customers to be a bit more outdoors and a bit more rugged oriented. The second was kind of tied to that, was we saw a rise in the number of people that were going to tow particularly campers, RV campers, things along those lines. What we couldn't have predicted is that trend obviously accelerating hugely over the past 15 months. And so what that powertrain combination has allowed us to do is offer 6,000 pounds of towing. Now the average RV trailer, give or take, is around 5,200 pounds, and we know that's a dry weight. So once you've got your things in it and so on and so forth, you've still got some margin. And with that transmission, it allows us to have better standing start performance, as well as more gear ratio flexibility and lower RPMs due to the wider ratio spread. Now, 6,000 pounds is not necessarily 6,000 pounds. What do I mean by that? Our towing is SAE, I'm gonna read this out, J2807 compliant. What that means in layman's terms is we don't have any frontal area limitations like some of our competitors do when it comes to towing. So those two trailers pictured there are actual trailers you can tow with this vehicle. We put those there to show that, I mean, those are pretty considerable size, and I believe our friendly PR team has 1 or 2 of those out here today for you to experience. We've also added trailers weight control as well to the vehicle to make that experience that much easier. Now with that, the rugged side, we've added this 7-position terrain mode controller. Offers different settings depending on your terrain. Many of you might be familiar with these kind of controls, but what we've done also is we've made it authentic by trying to make sure that it actually alters a bunch of different parameters in the car, anything from the way the limited slip locks up to the VDC control, the stability control limits, to different steering weight, so on and so forth. Now, with that, we'll get into some of the technical attributes of that 4-wheel drive system. The biggest innovation on it is we've gone to something called a direct coupling. Long story short, it's much more predictive than before. The previous system was reactive. In order for it to funnel power back and forth, it first needed to detect some slip. With this new system, instead, it can be reactive, but it can also be much more predictive. It takes into account sensors around the vehicle, takes into account weather conditions, etc., and can proactively funnel power back and forth. And so that leads to a much more confident experience for our customer in this kind of a scene. You're going up a gravel dirt road, there's much less slip, much more confident experience. With that, we've also increased the contact patch on the vehicle. We've made the tires a bit wider, and we've also significantly, I should say, improved the steering system. We've gone to a rack-based electric power steering system. That's reduced the level of steering efforts, or we can control that much better, but we've also got much more precision in the steering as well. I'll leave it at that because it's best experienced by you guys on the road. Ride quality is improved as well. We've retuned the suspension, we've stiffened up the roll stiffness front and rear. Again, best experienced out on the road with the vehicle. These graphs are meant to indicate that we worked very hard to make this car quiet. All I really mean by that is that we've taken a lot of measures. I think the biggest one is we've made sure that we've got front side laminated glass, and the rear glass is 25% thicker as well. So you'll experience that today, hopefully on the road, especially under some of the higher speed conditions. Lastly, on the mechanical side of things, fuel economy, despite all these improvements, despite the increased content, we've managed to keep the fuel economy competitive. A lot of those improvements are derived primarily from the transmission, as well as the vehicle has improved aerodynamics and a stop-start system. With that, I'll move on to my favorite part of the vehicle, which is the flexibility part, because that's where we see our consumer really using this on an everyday basis. Obviously, there are a lot of different use case conditions here, but these families, these customers, these adventurous moms and dads, they absolutely need to have the ability to use 3 rows in this vehicle. And so that was absolutely a primary focus on how to make that utility that much easier. And it's a very simple sequence. It starts from the moment you walk up to the vehicle on the rear door. One of the only vehicles in the segment to offer the ability to simply unlock that rear door with the key in your pocket, instead of having to do what we call the 2-step dance, go to the front, unlock it with the switch there, and then move to the rear door, which means even a child can open that door if you're standing there and your hands are full. The doors open wider. That allows easier access for kids, adults alike, as well as the loaded car seat. We have a new Easy Flex system. I'll talk about that in a second, because that really, I think, is one of our key innovations. We're offering captain's chairs for the first time on this car. You can put 3 car seats across, or you can put just one in the center. These are all new innovations that we're offering with this car versus the outgoing model. Thanks to that width in the car, we were also able to offer 8-seater capability on Pathfinder for the first time, and a lot more room, as I mentioned, thanks to some of the engineering improvements in the interior cargo area, or interior roominess overall. Now let's talk more about that Easy Flex system. What does it mean? We actually pioneered it on the last car. It was a system that allowed us to keep a car seat in the second row and still access the third row. Best demonstrated by this video here. As you can see, a one-touch button. Now it's been improved to where you literally just hit one button and the entire mechanism lifts up and over. This cannot be done on any competitor vehicle. So if you are a family with 3 kids, 2 car seats, and you've got those car seats loaded on the outboard positions in the second row, this is one of the only vehicles out there that you can access that third row pretty easily. And so you can do this not only with our bench seat, not only on both sides, but with the captain's chair version as well. So it offers a high degree of flexibility. We've got a vehicle mocked up out there for you to show you exactly how that works. We've got several more storage options as well. With this new transmission, we went to a shift-by-wire mechanism. What that means is we don't need a traditional shifter planted in the center console. And what that's allowed us to do is open up 13 liters of storage underneath that. So you can put anything in there from a Kleenex wipes to diaper bags to camera bags to 2-liter of Coke, whatever you want. And we've got several other storage areas as well in the vehicle. In addition to that, we've got 16 cup holders, and even those cup holders, the team focused on making sure that, for example, in the door pockets, you can house a big Yeti water bottle that's, I believe it's 76 millimeter, a certain size that we focused on to make sure that every aspect of the car was truly usable. Behind that third row, that's been improved as well. You can do 4 golf bags. You can put a 120 quart cooler there. You can load 6 TSA carry-ons there for that airport run. And for the DIYers, this is the first time we're able to say that we can do 4-foot wide building materials in there. So whether it's sheets of plywood, whether it's drywall, or whatever it is, it can lie flat in there, which means you can now stack it up. Again, not something that you see necessarily in this segment. Underneath that, we used to have an underfloor storage area, but it had a subwoofer in there. We've taken that subwoofer out and put it somewhere else in the vehicle, and that's allowed us to really increase that area. We've also put a self-supporting hinge lid on it, so when you open it up, it just sort of stays there, so now you're not using one hand to support that lid while loading your items. Lastly, we made it out of plastic. Again, these seem like simple things, but they're simple things that we paid attention to make it that much easier to now have an area to put those sandy beach towels or those dirty hiking boots. Lastly, on this connected pillar, the first thing we've done is we've added a lot more technology in terms of screen real estate. We've got a 9-inch center screen, we've got a full TFT meter in front of the driver for the first time, and we've got a heads-up display. So between that, you've got almost 3 feet of screen real estate. So you can customize those screens. You could have your ProPILOT Assist condition shown on the heads-up display, or you can have your navigation map shown on the instrument cluster. You can have your music shown on the center display, whatever way you want to configure it. In terms of connectivity, we're bringing wireless CarPlay and an Android Auto to the vehicle. We're bringing a wireless smartphone charger, and we've got connectivity for all the family in the vehicle as well. We've got 6 USB ports scattered between Type A's and Type C's. We focused on making sure that they charge at a certain rate, so you can even with the Type C ports charge, for example, an iPad or a MacBook Pro, for example. So it offers a high degree of flexibility for your family in every single row as you're traveling. We got Wi-Fi over there updating, and we've got a 120 volt outlet as well. From a safety point of view, Nissan debuted a safety shield, can't say that today, 360 system. And we did that about 3 to 4 years ago. Now, that system is on this vehicle, and what that means is we've got anything from front collision warning, front emergency braking. On the sides, we've got blind spot warning, and in the back, we've even got rear automatic braking. And that is something, again, that is very, very unique in this class of vehicle. Now, on top of that, we've offering our ProPILOT Assist system. We've offered that before, but on this particular vehicle, it's offered for the first time. It's, just as a recap, ProPILOT Assist brings together intelligent cruise control and then layers onto that a steering assist system, so it helps you keep centered in your lane and controls your, it helps control your speed as you're driving down sort of a limited access highway, for example. So some of the benefits versus the previous system, we've done some tuning, done some improvements to make that system that much smoother and easier for the customer to use. But one of the big improvements with it now is we've linked it to the navigation. So that's allowed us to offer a couple of key improvements. One is you can now come to an extended stop. So if you're in a traffic jam, the vehicle can now stop for up to 30 seconds by itself and resume on its own. It now has the ability to read speed limit signs and then prompt you on the center display if you want to automatically adjust your speed to match that speed limit or not. And if it's approaching a sharp curve in a highway, it'll automatically know that to slow down a bit to navigate that curve and then speed back up. So that link to the navigation brings several key improvements for us. Lastly, as a ex-engineer but also kind of a nerdy guy, I wanted to point out some of the cool, kind of fun little things we focused on, just because there are so many stories in this car, right? As I said, I wanted you to take away rugged, flexible, and connected, but this entire team has been working and sweating all the small details. Take, for example, that storage shelf that's in front of the passenger in the front seat. We've made sure that that little shelf allows 2 of the largest size phones in the market today to fit on that shelf, and you can go off-roading without those phones bouncing out of there. Take, for example, the center console that we have in the captain's chair version. We've got a center console in there, but for the first time in this segment, it's removable with just one-hand operation. So you can literally, if your kids come home and they're like, hey, we're bringing 3 friends with us, the driver can reach behind and literally unbutton or unlock the center console with one hand and lift the whole thing out, and it weighs probably 10 pounds or less. It's very, very easy to take out. So there's a lot of innovations on this vehicle, and we'd love to talk to you more about them and have you experience them throughout the day. So